Welcome to Rosa TV, the place where we talk about scientifically proven ways to support the language development of your children. If you want to know more about this topic, remember to subscribe to my channel. Today, I want to talk about whether combining two languages in one sentence, that means in academic words, we call that code switching, whether that's going to affect the language development of your children. In this channel, we only talk about scientifically proven evidence, and here is the evidence. So today, we are going to go through this together and see whether code switching is going to affect the language development of your children. This project is a real big effort. It takes us 3 years and it involved 13 British scholars in order to answer this question: what factors actually affect language development in bilingual children in the UK? This study involves 6 universities, so this includes Plymouth University, Bangor, University of Birmingham, Kent, Liverpool, and Oxford. That this is such a big scientific study. So I want to reassure you that the evidence that we find here is supported by scientific research. So if you want to know more about the link of the study, then I'll put this in the notes section. So please feel free to go to that link, watch this video until the end, because I'll tell you the real 2 factors that's going to affect the language development of your bilingual child. So the reason why my boss at that time, Dr. Caroline Flossier, why she came up with this idea to work on this project is because she can see that when we look at the field of bilingual research in America, in Canada, in Hong Kong, and in England, basically there is a lot of confusing evidence for parents. So let me give you an example. So these examples are like code switching. You have evidence telling you that, oh, you shouldn't code switch, you shouldn't mix 2 languages in one sentence in front of your child. You're going to confuse your child. And there's also evidence showing that the amount of exposure is going to affect the language development of your children. So this includes things like whether your children hear enough English and the amount of time that your child spends in the additional language. This is going to affect the language development of your children. The socioeconomic status, so this includes the education level of the parents and the job that the parents do affect the language development of your children. There is also evidence showing gender, so girls tend to speak earlier than boys. And of course, there is also evidence saying that, hey, if you are not the native speaker of that language, don't even bother to speak English to your child. Again, they say that that's going to confuse your child. I really like the fact that she thinks about it this way. She said that, gosh, that's a lot of evidence. And sometimes these evidence, they contradict with each other. And to be honest, parents, we all know that we have very limited time, we have very limited energy. So what Caroline wants to do is to really look for factors that's actually gonna affect the language development of your children. One thing that she include in this project as well, that's why we recruit 13 languages in this project, is because she wants to focus on factors that's gonna affect all languages. If you look at the research in America, a lot of the times these studies focus on the research that are on Spanish and English speaker. If you look at Canadian study, then most of the time their study will be based on French and English bilinguals. In the UK, we got a mixture of these children, so we cannot rely on the results that only focus on a typical language group. We actually need to find evidence that's gonna work for any languages. So that's why in this project we focus on recruiting 13 target languages, which includes, here you can see Bengali, Cantonese, Mandarin, the list go on. So you can see it here, Portuguese, German. So these are just some examples. We even include about 70 children who actually don't speak these 13 languages. And what our results show is that the 2 factors that I'm going to share with you later is going to apply to children who don't speak these 13 languages as well. I really like this project is because it doesn't rely on specific language group. If you focus on the 2 factors that we are going to talk about later, you are going to find factors that work on any languages. There is also another benefit that I really like about this study is the fact that we actually collect the data all across the UK. Normally, say like at the moment I'm at Coventry, so normally when we collect data, we go to school that's around this area. But I think one really good advantage of the project that I work on is the fact that we recruit babies all around the UK. Let me just give you a brief overview regarding what parents need to do if they join our project. So number one, when the children reach the age of 2, because our project focuses on 2-year-old children. So when the children get to the age of 2, parents will then need to complete what we call English CDI, which is an English vocabulary list, which you can see now on the screen. So basically, the mom will need to indicate whether the child is able to understand words like donkey, elephant, and fish, or whether their children are able to say these words. The parents will then need to complete the additional language vocabulary list. Say like if your children speak German, so after they complete the English word list, parents will then complete the German word list. So where again they will see items that are equivalent to German, so say like donkey, but then in the German translation, and again parents need to indicate whether their child say or they understand these words. We then get a questionnaire for parents to fill in regarding their education level, their career, and also finally I then talk to parents on the phone to try to get an understanding regarding how much time the children spend in the English environment and how much time the children spend in the additional language environment. So hopefully I have convinced you that this is a really strong and robust study. So now let's talk about the results. So there are 2 key results that we found here that really is going to affect your children's language development. Number 1 is what we call exposure. What we call exposure is the amount of time that your children spend in the English environment. So what we found is that for children who spend more time in the English environment, so this can be English nursery, so just spending more time in hearing English, their language development in English is going to improve. Number 2, we call overheard speech is background language. So these are the language that is not directly spoken to the child. So these are things like the language that the parents speak between the 2 of them. If parents speak English between the 2 of them, the more time that they do that, actually the children understanding of English also improve. So I find that very interesting because what it tells us is that speech that is not direct to children is also going to affect their language development. So we can think about like if you let your child listen to English song, or even when I know a lot of us like to watch English movies. So even when you're playing this movie, having your children around, they don't need to understand what's going on in the movie. Even just by hearing that, it's going to have an impact on the language development of your children. If you want them to improve their English, let them have more exposure and let them hear more English. But the issue is that if you realize that you have already given your children tons of exposure in English and you still worry about the language development of your children, then I would suggest that you talk to a registered health practitioner. Sometimes health practitioners don't know that we actually got this assessment to tell whether a child have any language delay in English or their additional language. So it's worth talking to your registered health practitioner, telling them that you know there is this UKBT80, which I'm going to put the link in the notes section, and you can tell them that you would like to get your children assessed in order to see whether we need to worry about the language development of your children. So I hope you can see that code switching, what we call mixing 2 languages, is in one sentence. We don't really have the scientific proof to show that it's going to affect the language development of your children. Now, both Caroline and I, we also say that, okay, to be honest, yes, our study focused on children at age 2. So we can't really say whether code switching when your children reach the age of 6 or 7, whether it's going to have a negative impact on your children's language development. But what we can say is that we really understand it's very difficult to be a parent, and there is a lot of conflicting evidence out there regarding what factors is going to affect the language development of your children. So we only have 2 take-home messages here for parents. Number 1, really focus on language exposure. If you want their English to be better, let your children to hear more English, have multiple people who speak English in front of them. And number 2, even when you are listening to English song, when you're watching English movie, when you're talking to your spouse, even though these speech are not directed to your child, just by hearing more of them actually is gonna have a positive impact on your children's English development. So if we focus on these two factors, then at least our parents are not overwhelmed with all these conflicting evidence out there. So I hope you find this video useful, and please remember, if you are worried about the language development of your children and if you're in the UK, please talk to a registered health practitioner. Tell them about UK BTAT, and you can get your children assessed regarding whether your children might have any potential language delay. Down there, I want you to tell me, how do you find this video? What do you think about it? Do you think speaking two languages in one sentence is gonna have a negative impact on your children? What do you think about this research project? It would be great to hear from you. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.